Hey, I'm Di McQueen, licensed clinical social worker, family and addiction expert. I'm here with Dr. Brian Jackson, my longtime cohort who specializes in the field of addiction. Welcome to Healing Families Shattered by Addiction.
Di and I have worked with addicts, alcoholics, and their families for over 30 years combined. Our podcast and coaching programs focus on families who have a loved one suffering from addiction. Our experience has been that this disease affects families as much, if not more, than the addict or alcoholic.
Is your world spinning out of control? Are you codependent? Are you experiencing worry, loss of sleep, and difficulty concentrating? If so, you're in the right place. Brian and I have both personally lived it, learned it, and now we're going to teach you tools and techniques on how to get your life back that you thought was shattered by addiction.
Okay, let's dive in.
Brian and I are so excited to introduce to you our new sponsor, Lakeview Health. They are a wonderful residential treatment center. Whether it's the family member who is looking for a place or the addict or alcoholic themselves, this would be the place that we would refer them to. Brian, you have many years of experience with Lakeview.
Yeah, Lakeview Health is a center of excellent addiction treatment. They take an evidence-based approach, medical approach to treating this complex brain disease. They hold the Joint Commission's Golden Seal, and they were voted one of America's best treatment centers by Newsweek magazine. They deliver dual diagnosis, gender-responsive, and trauma-informed care at their gorgeous facility here in Jacksonville, Florida. But they do see people from all over the world do come here to Jacksonville to go to treatment at Lakeview. Their levels of care include medically supervised detox, which a lot of people do need. Then they stabilize them in a residential rehabilitation and partial hospitalization program. They have board-certified physicians, master-level therapists, and they work to address the unique needs of each patient. So in other words, it's not a cookie-cutter program. They help individuals build skills for long-term sobriety. So if you or someone you know needs treatment, please visit their site at lakeviewhealth.com. We also have a hyperlink on our website at familyandaddictionexperts.com where you can just click and get some information about Lakeview Health. And Di, I think you have a number for people to call if they would like to inquire about treatment.
I sure do. That number is 888-480-3799. That's 888-480-3799. Give them a call. Hey everybody, this is Di McQueen and welcome back to Healing Families Shattered by Addiction. And today I'm joined with my partner, Dr. Brian Jackson, and we wanted to talk about, the characteristics of what the family looks like when they've been affected by addiction or substance use in their family. Most people believe truly that if their person were to go get some help, the person, of course, being the one who's abusing, were to go get some help, that it would solve the problem of the family and that everything would be fine. In fact, that isn't true. That is one element of a whole array of things that need to be done. Because usually by the time someone goes to get help, the dysfunction in the family is so profound that that's only one small portion of what has to happen. So Brian and I thought it'd be a good idea to potentially discuss some of the characteristics that people become or have that have been affected by a loved one's addiction. So most of them, kind of align with codependent behaviors, but they are very, very, very characteristics of most family members that have addiction in the household. So Brian, you want to talk a little bit about what those are, and we can expand on them a little bit and then give some suggestions.
Yeah, hi, Di. Thank you for having me together with you today. So it's hard to believe it's 2023. I don't know where a year has gone, but in any event, this is a great topic. Family members just really feel the effects of, a loved one that's in active addiction. A lot of people talk about codependency. What is codependency? Well, it can be defined in several different ways, but if your happiness and your mood is contingent upon your loved one's mood or your loved one getting help, you're really setting yourself up for not being happy yourself. It's based on an event. It's almost like, I'll only be happy on the days that the sun is out. The sun is not out every day. So we want to kind of disconnect from that, where you're not attaching your happiness or your mood to where your loved one is at. And sometimes we just want to escape. And so some of the ways that family members do escape, is acting in compulsive ways that are not healthy for you. This could, manifest itself as, binge eating, being obsessively on the internet, compulsive shopping. All these things are external factors that help you escape from the place you're at in terms of being unhappy and scared and anxious. But unfortunately, they're just temporary. They're really not a long-term solution to what's going on with you and going on with the family. And then you can get really angry, and that's very, very common. You're very frustrated with the situation, and sometimes that anger can come out misdirected. It can come out at other family members. It can come out at friends. I mean, we've seen this over and over again, where people act out against or towards other family members, and it really has nothing to do with the family member. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. And, as the family member that's receiving that, you're kind of dumbfounded. You don't know really what to do. And that becomes a problem statement, right? Starts to deeply affect the children that go, but we can talk about that in a little bit as well, B.
Yeah, and then also making decisions about what other family members need, or giving up your autonomy and allowing others to make decisions for you, because we get to a point where it's like, please, somebody take the reins. I can't do this anymore, and so therefore you put yourself in the background and have other people making decisions for you. And you could suffer low self-esteem because you're focusing all your time and energy on family members, in addition to the person that you love that's in active addiction. And sometimes we can react irrationally. I mean, we talked about the anger. Sometimes it can escalate to violence. And those are the consequences of a loved one's substance use disorder. So a lot of times where we see this manifest is, neglecting yourself, your own emotional, spiritual, and physical needs, to prioritize the perceived needs of other family members. So you basically lose yourself trying to keep it all together for everybody. And then, you start avoiding people outside of the family. So you don't have to talk about the addiction or the need for addiction treatment for the loved one. And we start to lie to ourselves and to other people about the problem of addiction in the family. It's almost like we feel totally unique. We feel shame. We feel guilt. And so we isolate more and more to just avoid the whole situation. And then the worry, the ruminating, the worrying obsessively about your addicted family member's drug or alcohol use, to the point where, it's consistently inconsistent. You don't know what's happening. You feel like you're in the dark, and that begins to worry, and we begin to project and catastrophize. What's the next phone call going to be? How is the person doing? Have they disappeared? Have they, God forbid, overdosed or died or been in a car accident? And, that's a real tough place to be for the family members. So it really reduces your quality of life, and it perpetuates a system that, allows the addicted family member to keep using and avoiding addiction treatment. And over time, people can continue to play their codependent role within the family unit. They start to become the role, losing touch with their true selves. So again, the addicted loved one gets lost in their addiction. And then as family members, we start to get lost and lose sight of who we are and become part of it, where the addiction is almost like a white tornado that comes in and affects the entire family.
So, B, let me, May, if you don't mind, I would like to add a little bit because that all is so fantastic. But I wanted to talk about, even you mentioned the roles, in families and how they literally almost get flip-flopped. right? Where, let's say, for instance, it happens to be the husband who is, either the alcoholic or the substance abuser. And mom has to take over the roles of paying the bills, being the one for everybody to come to, taking over all family functions. And she seems like she's a strong, self-reliant, and almost because of the anger becomes very aggressive. But in reality, she's probably more confused and frightened than most people know
For sure.
and understand. And then she's starting to question her own femininity. And we're emasculating the husband because now his role has been taken away from him, but he's not able to do it on a consistent basis. So she never knows, should she not, which then in turn confuses the children, right? And that becomes a whole,
Yeah, the children are definitely affected in a negative way.
right. And these are those characteristics, right? I mean, it is our parents, right, that train the children for their various roles in life, how their work life is going to be, how they, are intimate with somebody, how their social and creative development becomes. But if I am afraid to go out in public because I don't want any close interaction with another human being, so the world finds out what's going on, my children start to go like, we're not allowed to do that either, right? I can't have my friends over. I can't, go out in the world and feel confident because there's all this back noise going on at my house that I'm embarrassed and ashamed of, as is the person who's dealing with this stuff. And then, let's talk about the resentment. You talk about the anger. But it's interesting because the alcoholic or addict is also feeling resentment because why are you taking or usurping my roles? Then there's usually, another characteristic that is really, pronounced is really the intimacy within the family, whether that is communication intimacy, sexual intimacy, just familial intimacy, and being able to feel comfortable together and sharing moments. This is a real problem, and these are definitely characteristics that you see within a family that has been affected.
Yeah, those are all things that sometimes are outside of our awareness in terms of how they're affecting us, how they're affecting the family, how they're affecting the children. I mean, I've seen it over and over again. Oh, they're only 3 and 4 or 5 and 7. They don't really know what's going on. Well, believe me, they do know what's going on, and they're watching what you're doing. They're learning from you. They're learning your coping skills. They see when you get angry. They're watching that you are isolating, like Di said, and then they begin to isolate and stay away from their friends. So it really, really affects the whole family. And, sometimes the family will feel like the only solution to this problem or the real solution is for the addicted loved one to get treatment. And that is not the entire case. I mean, the family, I hate this word, it's a dysfunctional family. Who doesn't come from a dysfunctional family? But this is really heightened with addiction in terms of dysfunction. No family runs completely smoothly, no matter what the scenario is. But when you throw addiction in there, it's something that, again, you're trying to make sense of that doesn't make any sense. And so therefore, we're reaching for different things to try and feel like we are in some sort of control. So, everybody's trying to cling to their family roles, but the roles change so dramatically. And then we have to undo that if and when the addicted loved one goes and gets help, because the damage has been done not only to them and they're trying to repair themselves, but the family needs help repairing themselves. And that's why Di and I really felt as though the family is so neglected in terms of being treated. There's not a lot of attention being paid to what's going on with you guys. And we're here to help you kind of navigate through some of these things. And like I said earlier, a lot of the times these things are outside of your awareness. And when we can identify what the problems are specific to your family, we can come up with some solutions that we have seen work time and time again. If you have the willingness to make the changes, you really get your life back.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, isn't it? And here's the other part, B, that most people don't really understand, which is whether the addict or alcoholic decides to get treatment or not, the family can get better. So that's one of those things where most people go like, no, it's up to them. But if we learn and we teach, these tools and techniques, it's counterintuitive most of the time that we think if we let go of that control, that everything isn't going to fall apart. But in fact, most of the time, if we let go of that control, all of a sudden things begin to get better.
Absolutely. To think that some external event, i.e. the addicted loved one going to get treatment, is going to make everything okay and everybody happy. That's really not the case. This is an inside job for you. And so that's what we want to focus on, is what are the changes I can make for myself to give myself some serenity, some peace of mind, be able to function in the world, to not feel this low self-esteem and feel like, the whole world is, aware of what's going on with us, and we've got to hide that. You do have every right to live your life. Our hope is that the loved one gets help, but we hope even more that in the meantime, that you guys, everybody that is living with this, can take the steps you need to take to give yourself some relief from this, to be able to breathe, to be able to have a life, to not be totally consumed by the addiction that's going on with your loved one.
Exactly. Let's say, for instance, something as simple as some self-care, right? This low self-esteem that Brian's referring to. We don't realize that we collectively have neglected ourselves, as he stated, but something as simple as going and taking an hour walk for yourself and stepping out of the house, because again, that's one of those characteristics. We believe that if we leave, the entire world's going to fall apart inside, exactly, right? Yeah. Like in an hour's time, no doubt. But even if it's only 15 minutes to sit down and read a book, well, we can't concentrate on that, so we don't do those things. Sometimes I've heard it, I lived it, and I've learned that this is not a good way to do things, but I can remember not even taking a shower for a day because I was so petrified about what was going to happen if I jumped in the shower. And when you hear that from someone who doesn't understand what happens inside of an addictive home, you think, wow, that's kind of crazy, right? But it's the truth. You don't eat properly, you don't sleep properly, you don't do hygiene properly, you're probably not working out, you're not, eating balanced meals. The behaviors are so profoundly skewed. But something as simple as taking a walk for an hour and getting out of that, where you can actually breathe, is a start, a step, right?
Yeah, we become paralyzed, from this whole situation. And then the more we do less, the more we become comfortable with doing less. I've seen people over and over again, where they've neglected their spiritual health, their emotional health, their physical health, i.e. they don't go to the dentist, they don't go to the doctor. They're so consumed with the loved one getting well that they neglect themselves. And to your point, Di, it's like this fear of leaving this situation where you're comfortable being uncomfortable with the whole thing, that you can't break out. And so it's so important to take those first steps, second steps, third steps towards self-care. And life is going to go on. And we need it to go on for you in a healthy way, as opposed to just being paralyzed and frozen, waiting for your loved one to say, okay, I'm ready to get help. And that may or may not happen. Our hope is that it will happen. But in the meantime, you need to take care of yourself.
Right. And just think about it, circling back around to the children.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you showered today.
Hey, I'm glad you combed your hair.
We like to be like.
We got to joke around a little bit about this, because when you look back, you realize, oh my gosh, I really was doing those things, and I was like, paralyzed is a great word. But when I look about the kids again too, right? Think of it. I'm the role model. These children are immersed in confusion. They're trying to understand where their security comes from. They're unhappy. They don't know how to go outside because they don't know how to deal with people outside. Some of them get taunted, bullying and stuff, because they don't know how to interact. And, they're in fear a lot. They lack sleep. They lack food. They lack guidance. and certainly the affection of a normal household, or learning to deal with some of these kids have to, they get beaten, the violence comes out on them. So, what we don't realize is the trickle down effect, right? So my characteristics then lead into my children's characteristics and the dysfunction that goes on there, and how much it really, and the beauty when there is some learning on tools and techniques, and all of a sudden the children have a much more stable environment. They start to spark around. They come out of those shells. They start talking about how they feel. And, it's a really beautiful thing when there starts to be some form of recovery, even if it's not the person abusing.
Yeah, I mean, kids like bright, shiny objects. I've seen people who have suffered from this addiction and think, hey, if I go out and buy something fancy for my kid, that's going to make them happy and feel like they have a dad or a mom. But really what kids want is they want a cheerleader in their life. They want to be nurtured. They want to be touched and held. And a lot of times in the families of the addicted loved ones become so paralyzed that there isn't a lot of expression of affection, which children need. So, I think that's very important to focus on that, what are my children's needs? They want their mom, they want their dad, they want them to be involved in their lives. And believe me, they can tell the difference. They can tell if you are present in their lives, not physically present, but actually present in their lives. Just so important. And, we've seen that happen over and over again where things turn around. And like Di was saying, kids are very, very flexible. They bounce back a lot quicker than adults do. So, keeping all of that in mind, that's what Family and Addiction Experts is all about. We're here to try and help yourself heal your family. And that can be with or without the person who is in active addiction. And that's the most important thing to remember, that we don't have to wait until, today is today, and we got to do what we can today to keep everything as normal as we possibly can. And when I say normal, back to where you're engaged, engage with your loved ones, whether it's your children or other people that you care about in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the family that doesn't understand how to do these things, regardless, we think we're alone and that nobody else gets us. And the fact of the matter is we can't do this alone. We must get some help of some kind. Certainly, you can always come to us, Family and Addiction Experts, but there's many others out there. There's tools, there's techniques, but it is necessary to get some form of help and learn some of these. And as you get stronger, you'll recognize that there's many people out there that also are suffering from the same problem. And I call it the disease of relationships, right? I mean, we become addicted to them. And it's, as lethal as it is a drug of any other kind. People don't believe that family members commit suicide, etc. And they do. They get so depressed and so withdrawn and so forlorn about what's happening in their worlds that can be the end result. Health problems, etc. So these characteristics that we're talking about today, certainly there are solutions, and it is important that the families seek help, right? So,
yeah, and that's the hardest part. You're filled with this guilt and shame. You're paralyzed and stuck in this uncomfortable place, and it's so hard to ask for help. But I can tell you that if you do reach out and ask for help, like I have done in the past, and Di has done in the past, there would be people that took us under their wings and taught us things, and changed our lives, assuming we were willing to do the work. So life can be, exponentially better, but it can't be if you don't ask for help. So if you're tired of living the way you've been living, there are options for you. And I would suggest strongly that you ask for help, because it can't be any worse than what's going on right now. So if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So feel free to contact us.
Absolutely. We have a free resource page on our website where there's some really great information on things like how to set a boundary, what this does to the children, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, and also we have some podcasts on there too. We have probably 7 or 8 of them on there, which you can listen to. The family resource material that Di was referring to, you can download and read. You can send us an email at info@familyandaddictionexperts.com.
yeah.
And we'd be happy to answer your questions and see if there's anything we can do to help you. We are available for free consultation, so that is on the website if you choose to do that. And our website is www.familyandaddictionexperts.com. And our hope for you is that you're going to explore some of these options that you have that are different than walking on eggshells and being unhappy right now.
Hey, what a great way to start off the new year, right?
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to get some help. Let's do this.
Time to change.
All right.
All right.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you on the next time. This is Di McQueen and Dr. Brian Jackson, and we are healing families shattered by addiction.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining our podcast, Healing Families Shattered by Addiction. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with more important tools, techniques, and ways for you to focus on you instead of the alcoholic or addict in your world.
Until then, please go to our website, familyandaddictionexperts.com. That's familyandaddictionexperts.com. You'll also see links to our Facebook and Instagram pages. Please also, if you have any emails that you would like to send us, that's info@familyandaddictionexperts.com. That's info@familyandaddictionexperts.com. With any thoughts, feelings, questions that you may have for us, we would love to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.